Are you ready to unlock your potential? Ready to leverage your life experience? Primed for reinvention? Welcome to Keys to Change with Shelly Henderson, your roadmap to a fulfilling second act in the world of real estate.
My guest today is Katie Soul. She is a visionary leader and former Fortune 100 executive who has redefined success by aligning it with purpose and consciousness. As the founder of Mystical Living, Katie is on a mission to empower leaders to master their energy, transcend limitations, and manifest multi-dimensional successes. Katie, welcome to Keys to Change.
Oh my gosh, Shelly, I'm so delighted to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
I just have to tell you that we started following each other on social media, and I couldn't wait to talk to you because you truly have the keys that are needed for women in particular out there that are looking to just dive right in and take that leap of faith. And I just I have so many questions for you, and we have so much to talk about. So let's just get right to it. I mean, how in the world did you even know that you wanted or felt like you wanted to leave corporate America? Let's start there.
Ooh, okay. So the way I like to explain it is throughout my life, throughout my entire corporate America journey of almost 2 decades, I was really living two parallel lives. I was climbing the ladder, having all this corporate success, the external accolades, the fancy waterfront home, the big salary, the promotions, the titles. And in parallel to that, I was exploring the mysteries of the universe. And that was always my deepest passion was to understand, why are we really here? Is it to come and do this 9 to 7 gig every day, or is there a greater purpose? And I always felt like I was searching for mine and that I didn't quite have it right. And eventually it came to a head as I was really developing my muscles of trust in myself, that I finally made the decision to leave corporate America. Because at the time, there was a decision point where something I was being invited to put into my body was really outside of alignment for me, and so it was a really clear pivot point that it was my time to chart a new path.
And don't you feel like as we I mean, I have so many things to say about that. So my husband and I were just talking recently about trying to figure things out. And I said, don't you think that at this point in our lives, we should have everything figured out? And he said, no. He said, no. He said, I don't think that's to be determined. I think there's still so much to figure out. But with that said, I think that when you are in line with who you are, what you believe in, and what your purpose is, you can forge ahead in that path and make the decision that you made to go in a different direction. And and that's okay. I change is hard and nobody likes it. Nobody likes it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're all so nervous about change, but why? Why? You weren't. Were
Well,
you?
I was, I was a single mom. I was making a really secure income. And there's this great book by Gay Hendricks. It's called The Big Leap. And around the time I was leaving, I read this book. And in it, Gay talks about our zone of excellence and our zone of genius. And what I came to understand was I was living in my zone of excellence. When you're in your zone of excellence, you're doing something that you're talented at. It makes people in your life comfortable. Everyone feels good about you in that place, and it's secure. But your zone of genius is really that soul purpose, that thing that lights you up on fire. And it was, in fact, really scary making that big leap from the zone of excellence into the zone of genius, and it didn't happen overnight. It took me a minute to really detox from corporate because I was still in that hustle, hustle, go, go, go mentality. And I built things. I built an online marketplace for female entrepreneurs. I launched my own podcast. I started a clothing line. I started a coaching business. And I was still so much on that hamster wheel of hustle and grind to achieve that it took me about a year coming out of corporate to really start to unwind and to understand that I was worthy just being me. And I didn't need to have all these businesses to prove something to the world like, oh, I can make it as an entrepreneur. I really took that full first year to start to unwind. And now the only thing I do is one I run one program that's for the modern mystic women who want to blend that spiritual and material world together. And I feel at peace. I run it once a week. I coach, I teach once a week, and it's perfect. And I quiet it down my clothing line, my marketplace, my podcast, and really came to understand that before I'd been more of like a vision board manifester, right?
Right.
Where you have all these goals and these things that you want to achieve. But as I deepened in my own spiritual practices, what I realized was actually I can throw all that in the trash because we are always manifesting. We are
Yeah.
Manifestation is just consciousness alchemizing energy into form. And what's so cool is once you grasp that concept, you ditch all those affirmations and vision boards and you really just come into your own peace, your own energy. And from that place, you magnetize amazing miracles and manifesting cool things like, you know, you guys reaching out for this podcast. That was I didn't know you
Exactly.
in my field of awareness, and somehow the universe brought us together to have this conversation. I didn't go out searching, I wasn't calling up people saying, "Oh, I really wanna get on the podcast circuit." This just came into my reality, and today we get to have this beautiful conversation.
I know. And there's something about just being still.
Yeah.
And no matter, you're a mom, I'm a mom, my children are older, but we're all busy, right?
Mm.
One of the things, how many times has somebody said to you, "Oh, I'm just so busy. I'm sorry I haven't gotten back with you. I'm so busy." Okay, we're all busy. We all have the same amount of time in the day, but what are we going after? And I think, that's such a pivotal key, if you will, to change is I love what you said because for somebody like me that has very good intentions every year to, have New Year's resolutions or have New Year's intentions, I also feel anxious about, oh my gosh, it's March and what have I accomplished? And it's so much pressure. Like, get rid of it. I'm done. I'm done. So, yeah, get rid of it because the vision boards are all cute. And what about those planners? It sends me over the edge. The planners that, have all the stickers and you do the calligraphy. I'm like, "Oh, that just sends somebody like me just I wanna just poke my eyeballs out because I I just don't get it. I It's just a lot of time, and for people that love that, that might be very relaxing to them, but for me, it's not something that I wanna invest in. I've learned to, just like you, have little snippets, and let's find out what we are good at, what we are trying to accomplish, and
Yeah.
make that happen. But what would you say would be the first key to do that? What if somebody is listening and they're like, you know, this is great, Katie and Shelly, but I really don't know. I don't even know what direction to start in. What would be the first step? What would be the first key that they need?
So the first key that I teach is about awareness of your energy. Because so often we are just operating unconsciously that we don't even take a breath. And everyone can just do it now for a minute. You can close your eyes and you can breathe in and out your nose as long as you're not driving. You're operating heavy machinery.
Yeah.
And just drop in, maybe place your hand on your heart and notice what's true and be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody needs to know what you're feeling, but I can feel that I have some excitement brewing. I'm really enjoying this conversation,
Right.
but I also am not scared to say, actually, I feel really sad or I feel really angry because once we understand where we are energetically, it's the first step. And I want everyone to celebrate it. If you are sad, if you are angry, being honest with yourself is a
Right.
muscle that we all get
Yes.
to build. Right.
Yeah.
And so often, anytime I hear somebody say, I'm good, what what is
Are
that?
you?
Are you good?
Yeah,
What
are
is
you?
code is a code word for not good in my book, or I'm okay, and it's like, but how are you really? Let's go a little deeper, and I believe that's the first step, and I utilize a framework by a gentleman named Bruce Schneider, and he teaches the 7 levels of energy mastery in this awesome book, and I used to use it in my corporate days, and I still teach it, and it really helps people to have a framework to understand, okay, if I'm in stage 1, I'm powerlessness. What does that energy state look like? If I'm in stage 4, which is all about care and concern, that's a stage empaths tend
Mhm.
to live in quite a bit. Okay, this is that energy. If I'm in stage 7, it's more of an enlightenment energy. And understanding where you are on a scale like that, and anyone can look it up and Google it. I'm sure there's a PDF on it somewhere on the internet. Just getting honest with yourself about what is really true, I
Mhm.
believe
I'm
is
taking notes.
yeah, just step 1. That's what I teach in my program as the first step is really and then down the line, we can start to play with how we shift our energy, how we play with our multidimensionality, and it gets really fun. But first, we have to just be honest. And specifically as women, we often aren't honest with ourselves. And that leads us to people pleasing and to worrying about everyone else before ourselves. And when we can start with this simple practice, you can check in a couple times a day. How am I feeling? And I want everyone to celebrate it. I want you to just be proud of yourself for being honest. That's all. That's step 1.
Yeah, because and here's another thing. Um, I think women today have an advantage in that feelings are encouraged and shared. Um, you know, and life is I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe expectations are a little bit um leveled, if you will. You don't have to be okay. And some people, like with me, if I'm having a good day or not. It's just my personality. Some people can hide it really well, like you've just pointed out. But also, I feel like there's more of a push of it's okay to not be okay. And how can we get there? And what do we need to do? I'll give you an example. My parents divorced in the late 80s, and that was kind of unheard of, right? I mean, not very many people got divorced back then.
Yeah.
But now it is a thing, unfortunately, but fortunately, there's more people to talk about it, and there's more kids that have more of a support. I'm just using that as one example for my life
Yeah.
and how I carried that burden for a very long time because it wasn't something that you necessarily shared and talked about because a lot of people couldn't relate. So I think we have to have a group that can relate and that can share our burdens, our successes, our joys, our sorrows. And with that comes community, and community ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at a season in my life where I am searching for other communities and I don't have school per se for my kids, and that constant day-to-day people that you see, and I don't know if my employees necessarily wanna be friends, so, after work, so, you gotta you have to put yourself out there. You have to put yourself out there. So, would you say that maybe another key that we need is to have that self-confidence to be able to share and to go out there and take that first step?
Definitely. And I think when you can be in community with other people that are growing or passionate, so if you really love to play the guitar, go seek out other people that love to play the guitar. If you are lit up by meditation or yoga, go seek that out. And my life motto is follow your light and you'll light up the world. And for me, it's really about following your truth, and you'll find your people if you are true to yourself and you just say, "Oh, you know what? I really, I want to learn how to garden this year." And maybe that would be fun to learn in community. Go and find people. Go talk to them at the your local garden shop and get to know, okay, what's out there? How can I learn? Where are opportunities available to me? But I really think it all starts with, instead of thinking about it as I'm in a season of life where my friendships are changing, and thinking about it from a scarcity standpoint, thinking about it from a true standpoint. And, ooh, okay, if I follow something that makes me feel alive, those people are just going to come into my field. I don't need to worry about going and finding friends. I'm just going to magnetize them naturally because I'm in a good place. I am doing something that I love.
Right, and, um, that also leads to my next question is how does one have the confidence, find the time to go out there and do something new for the first time? It is very intimidating no matter your age or, what you're trying to do. Um, it is intimidating to go by yourself somewhere that you've never been before. You have to drive to get there and show up and meet new people, and if you're somebody that's not necessarily an extrovert, how would they do that?
That's such a great question. And it's interesting because I was just coaching a client on this, and I know she would give me permission to share, but she was going to a women's leadership event. It was a group of about 20 women, and she is new in her business space. And she comes out of a healthcare profession, has recently started her own business. And she felt like the little guy, right? She felt like, "Oh my gosh, everyone's been doing this for years.
Right?
I don't even know if I belong in this room." And what we did was we dropped into her heart space, and we started to feel what was really true. And of course, it wasn't anything really to do with the event itself. It was about some limiting beliefs that she had stored around women and leadership. And so we started to move that energy by her being vulnerable and sharing it and opening up to getting to the root of what was really getting her stuck. Because I always think about it like this. We're either in fear state or we're in creation state. And
Yes.
when we're in fear state, we're like humaning, right? It's the fears, the worries, the to-do list. And when we're in creation space, we're in our heart, we're in our flow state. We're really ebbing and flowing in this beautiful way. So what we were doing in that practice was we were moving her out of that fear state and into creation state. And she went in to the event. She had this incredible energy. She made these great connections. She ended up deciding to stay and build with some of these women, some
I
deeper
love I love that.
relationships. And it's so cool, right? But sometimes we need support to just shift our
Mhm.
energy. I need it. We all need sometimes just to have that practice or that community that helps us to work through some of these things because we don't have to do it all alone.
No, and you know what? And people like you and I that are trying to make a difference, we do have to sort of practice what we preach, if you will. And I'm gonna give you an example, as you can tell me how well I did. So I wrote a book called Starting from Scratch, and we have turned that into a theory. So my theory of starting from scratch means that every day you do have the power to start from scratch right where you are. And, and it doesn't have to be anything major. A couple of years ago, I decided, okay, it's now or never. I have to start faithfully committing to a better healthy lifestyle. And I wanted to start working out. I had no idea where to go. I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm not a person that loves it. So I was very frustrated by the fact that I knew what I was supposed to do, but I didn't know how to do it. And just like what you said a few minutes ago, I was literally thinking it. And on my phone, I got this ad that there was a new workout facility opening up in Charlotte in a couple of locations. Can you believe that? I literally,
I can believe it.
yeah, I was like, okay, this is a sign. I'm going, I'm signing up. I got a friend to go with me, which I think is key. If you have somebody that you can experience something new with together, that is a beautiful thing in itself.
Yes.
Yeah, to celebrate that.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We have made other new friends at this workout community. And by gosh, I wouldn't get up at 5:20 AM for anybody, but I get up and go because those people truly bless me every time I go. Like, it's Katie, it's like, I love it. I truly love it, and it's really transformed my life from the inside out. I mean, I'm not losing a ton of weight, but I feel great physically, and I'm getting something out of it more so than just the workout. And for that, I celebrate it, right? And so I think that's another key that we can give people is if you don't want to do it by yourself, see if you can drag a friend with you and then see what happens to the two of you. um, but I also think that we have to be intentional, and that was a good point that you made also, is our intentions have to be there, and I do think that when we are intentional, things come from that, and whether that's we see personal success or we see a snowball effect where, now you're on a podcast, you're a guest on a podcast, and, you know, you have these other opportunities because you open yourself up to that. And I think that that is a key to success in life. And I hope if anybody is certainly younger than me watching or listening, they might look at us and say, wow, they're speaking from the heart, but also from experience. Because if you are closed minded and you don't surround yourself with opportunities and people that are smarter than you or maybe in my case, they're fitter than me. I can learn from them, right? Totally. And um, I don't know. I think it's a wonderful thing. I love to learn. I love to be creatively in um, what's the word? You know,
Inspired.
challenged, inspired, challenged, inspired, all the things. Like, I love it. Doing this podcast, I love it. I put myself out there last spring in April, and um, the um, publishing company, Advantage Forbes Media, that published my book down in Charleston, they offered up this workshop. Katie, I was so nervous, but I felt like I had to do it. So I got in my car, I registered, got my car. I drove to Charleston by myself, didn't know anybody. And all the way down there, I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. I'm a grown woman. Like, why am I even nervous about this? But I think that I was nervous because I knew in my heart that because I was putting myself out there, good things were coming and I was already helping it along. And that's exactly what happened.
Amazing. And what I love about the 2 stories that you just shared, the one about the gym and the one about the podcast, is that you heard your intuition. I say
Yes.
this all the time. I'm not in the business of helping
Yes.
women hear their intuition. You are intuitive. All women, all men are intuitive. What I'm in the business of is helping people act on their intuition, and that's what
Sure.
you just showed in those 2 examples. You heard that intuitive hit, "Ah, it's time for me to start working out." You heard and got a sign in the form of your book publisher showing up and saying, "Hey, here's this opportunity," and you got that ping, "Ooh, I should do it," and you took action, and that's really where the life-changing experiences happen.
Yeah. And I think that that is very key. And I wonder, what is your thought on why do people push those thoughts down? Why do you think is the biggest reason or excuse that people have to not act on that ping? They're like, whatever. What do you think?
Well, from coaching a lot of women now, I really think it boils down to self-worth. I'm not good enough. That voice that's counteracting in the head saying like, "Oh, she can do it, but I can't really do that. She can have a podcast, but I can't really do that. They can have that fit body, but I can't really have that." This limiting belief that we have from conditioning from our society, families, whatever it might be, that's really limiting self-worth. So what we're doing is building up those muscles of self-worth, self-love, self-trust. It's just like going to the gym. You're training new muscles and you're rewiring your neural pathways in the process to shift from this belief of I'm not worthy to I am whole and complete as I am.
Yes.
And when we can move into that space, then we are more apt to try new things, to take the risk, to take the chance. And then what's super cool is you build evidence. So you built evidence through your workout program because you got stronger, you made new relationships, you're having fun, it's enjoyable, it's further evidence. So then when the podcast opportunity comes along, you're like, "Oh, I did something hard before and it worked out." Your
Right.
your neural networks understand that, and then you are like, "Oh, yeah, I can do that hard thing. I can start my podcast." And here
Right.
you are. I mean, it's awesome. You are doing it. You're a great example of believing in yourself and going and doing it and knowing that you're going to have a ripple of change that you're creating in the world. Maybe you don't understand it exactly, but you have this inner knowing that me having this podcast is creating this beam of energy out, this frequency that's
Yes.
going out into different hearts, and they're going to be impacted too. And I'm sure you're already starting to build evidence of people. I found this when I had my podcast and still do, even though I don't record it anymore, is people still come up and they're like, "You taught me this on your podcast, and now I'm doing it." It's evidence building that
Yes.
people are resonating with what you're putting out there, and it just gets better and better and better as you go.
Well, and the other thing I think is key is sometimes the human mind, and it's only natural to think the worst. I don't know why that is, but I was just thinking about some things prior to us having our time together. And I was like, everybody, when something happens, it's automatically devastating, negative, like, oh, we can't do that. Or, oh, whatever the case may be. The weather, politics, whatever, it's always, the sky is falling. Well, instead of just putting into practice what you have shared with us, like the waiting, the be still. I had a conversation this morning in the office with somebody and I said, well, let's just see how it goes. I mean,
Hey.
new ideas, new perspective. When I love it when somebody comes to us and says, hey, I have an idea. And it's a wonderful thing because
Yeah,
maybe somebody else's opinion or idea might help you or me down the road become even better. And,
totally.
and I was thinking about your experience when you left corporate America. And um, this comes to mind. A good friend of mine said to me one time, rejection is protection.
Mm,
And so, speaking of the negativity part, when somebody is hurt or let down, or perhaps they get laid off or fired, or, you know, a significant other breaks up with them,
yeah,
um, you can't see it in the moment, but
yeah,
that whole positive mindset should start to flow. And we have to train our brains to have that emotional intelligence of, okay, well, this happened, didn't go as planned. It's not
yes,
necessarily what I wanted, but what can I do with that?
yeah,
Because not everything, contrary to what we believe and think, is supposed to be bad, supposed to impact us negatively. And
yeah,
so, with that said, you know, I wonder if somebody's listening or watching today or when we film and say, wow, you know what? That really hit home because I lost my job and I didn't know what to do, or
yeah.
I don't know what to do next. That gives pause for opportunities. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had some pretty shitty things happen in my life.
Me too. Me
And
too.
looking back on them, I can see them as the greatest blessings. I mean, leaving corporate America, huge blessing in my life. Didn't feel like it when it was happening. Prior to that, I was married to a man who struggled deeply with addiction, and he decided to leave our family. And at that time, I was running our digital practice at the Fortune 100 retailer. I had little toddlers and I was having real chronic pain in my body. I was struggling with mold, Mark-ons, and Lyme, and chronic low back pain. And I just was a shell of myself. I was not physically well, I wasn't emotionally well. And now we had this new dynamic of him up and leaving and a lot of unknowns in that scenario. And now, years and years later, I can see how that was such a blessing for everyone. And I can really see the challenging role that he took on for all of us to learn and grow from, because it's not easy being kind of the villain of the story. And for whatever reason, he signed up to take that responsibility on. And it really allowed for all of us to grow and evolve through that, because for me at the time, that was kinda like one of the worst things I could think of was
Yes.
my family breaking apart, and now I have such a different perspective on it. And I'll tell you a fun, manifestation story because I know you're in the real estate space.
Yeah.
And when I was in that relationship, we were in a home that we had purchased together that like one thing after another just was it was a comedy of errors, and it was a great example of how your external reality reflects your internal. Our internal reality was crumbling, and the external home that we were in was literally crumbling too. So it was just a big shit show of life
Yes.
in that moment. And I kept having this vision. I've always been a big meditator, very visual. And I kept having this vision of this day when I would have a book launch party. And I was in this beautiful white kitchen. And so, with this home we were living in at the time, we needed to renovate it. So I brought in some people to help, and I was explaining this vision to them in this kitchen. And I was like, this is the kitchen. This is like, I can see it. I know this is how my kitchen is supposed to be. And the contractor was like, Katie, like that kitchen just, it doesn't work. Like, I understand what you're seeing, but it doesn't work in this house. So fast forward, things really crumble. He leaves. My now ex-husband leaves, and I'm saddled with this home. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to sell this guy because this I can't take on this project with everything else going on. So I start um, looking at homes online, and this one pops up, and I just get this ping like, "Ooh, I need to go see that house." So don't you know, I walk in the house, and it's the kitchen.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that.
I know, for those of you that are watching, you can see, ugh, this is the kitchen. I now live in that home, and what's so wild is my consciousness was seeding it for me. It was seeding this vision of there's this other reality, this other possibility.
Right.
And when I stepped into this home, it was one of those quantum leaping experiences. I bought the house within a week, and it was more money than I wanted to spend. And what's also pretty wild is the house in value has grown by over $1 million since I've lived here. So there's been a lot of wins with this healing home and this space that I get to reside in now. But
Yes.
those images and those pictures and those inner knowings that we get, they really are important, even if we don't always understand them in the moment. And I'd really impress that to your audience is, if you're getting this divine download or this insight or this intuitive ping, it's for a reason. And
Yes.
even if you're in a stage of life where things are falling apart, there will be a time when you can see the gift in the falling apart. You just
Yes.
need to it is a process of surrender. It is really freaking scary, and if you can find some support, some community, some people to lean on during those times, that is amazing.
We're not meant to live majority of our lives in negativity and despair and bad times. I don't believe that. I believe that we are supposed to live fully and intentionally, and um, that we are made for an abundant life, and having the tools and the keys that we need to make that life not only abundant but successful and prosperous and purposeful is is life changing. And sometimes it just takes other people, listening to other people and their stories,
Yeah.
to be able to say, "Oh, that's right. You know what? Yes, and now I'm inspired." And it's okay if you break your New Year's resolution. It's okay. Every day is a new day to start over and start from scratch, because what yesterday brought, today might not need it. I just
Totally.
thought of that. It's pretty good, isn't it? I mean,
It's great.
we might not need it. Like, today's a new day. Um, my house has been a wreck for like 2 weeks, and it's just me and my husband. You would think 6 people live there. And I mean, I got behind on laundry. I got, there were clean dishes in the dishwasher, there were dirty dishes in the sink. I'm just being really transparent. And
Yeah.
I I was like, "You know what? Screw it. Like, I don't really feel like doing it." But then there came a time this weekend that I was like, "All right, this this behavior has to stop. This is not, it's not like me. Come on. We're gonna today's the day." So it took me half a day, but I got it all done. I I got myself organized. I gave myself room to pause and be still and not worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
wasn't gonna affect anybody but myself and my husband.
Yep.
But then at some point, you have to dust yourself off and start again and be like, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna do it." And I got it done. And what would you tell, before our time is up, what would you tell your younger self? Something that you know now, but you might not knew then.
Hmm. I think as it relates to what you're sharing, as I really shifted from seeing things as discipline. So I
Mhm.
grew up as a collegiate athlete, a Division 1 athlete. I just was always very disciplined. I
Yes.
a lot of success throughout my career and climbed. And what I would reflect back to her is throw discipline in the trash
Mhm.
and really tap into the energy of devotion. I am not disciplined anymore in my life, but I am very devoted to showing up for myself. And sometimes that looks like this morning, going to the gym and lifting heavy weights. Sometimes it looks like resting
Yes.
and taking a time out for myself. Sometimes it looks like drinking a glass of water. And
Yes.
I don't do any of these. I do all these fad diets and things in corporate America. I just eat whole foods now, and I'm devoted to cooking for my family. That's really important to me. It's a way that I can nourish my body, nourish what goes into my loved ones. And when you start to move it from this discipline, like I have to meal prep, to wow, I get to dice up these beautiful carrots that are gonna nourish
Yes.
those people that I love. It's just a subtle mindset shift, but I would say it's one that has helped me immensely, and I just think she tried too hard, that
Oh,
younger version of me, and just to have more fun and to trust herself and, really to follow what lights her up, because your life really can be that too good to be true life. I get to live that life now. And there was something seeded in me in all those early years. And the more I just trusted it, the more fun life has become.
I love that, because I think that every age, every stage is truly a season where our time is shifted, and our time needs to be devoted in other places, but we can't lose sight of who we are in that moment. And I see a lot of young moms today, they're so frazzled because they are keeping up with life and work and kids, but now they also have social media, and that puts a bigger expectation on how they think things should be. So yes, I totally agree with you. And I would also add to, um, you know, not worry about what other people think. And I
Yeah.
think I'm living my best life in some respect because I decided a year ago I was going to put myself back on social media and I didn't really care because I knew that my purpose was to lean in to helping others live their best life and give them the keys that they needed for change and to start from scratch. And you're a prime example of that. And look how we've connected. It's amazing. It's so
Oh,
cool.
amazing. And I
It's so
think
cool.
about, like, that young mom too, that's a place that my heart really pings at because I
Yes.
think, like, back to I told myself this story when I was in corporate America that I was lucky because my kids were in daycare in my building, and I could run down between meetings and breastfeed them when they were little. But it never felt right. I convinced myself that I was lucky and this was great, but I remember feeling so stressed and strained, and it's really hard to, like, fit breastfeeding a kid into a 20-minute window when that
Right.
could be shifting, and I look back and I think, "It didn't feel right. It wasn't right for me," and yet I convinced myself that I was lucky. So, to those young moms in particular, I'd really invite you to feel into, if it doesn't feel right for you, it's not right, and it's
Right.
okay to speak up about it, and there's always another way. Even if you can't see it in this exact moment, sometimes it just requires you having a conversation with a boss or a partner and saying, "Hey, this isn't feeling right to me.
Right.
Can we explore a third path?" There's
Right.
always a third path available. And so for any
Right.
of the young moms listening, that one just, oh,
No, I know, and like I said earlier, a new idea or a new vision or a suggestion, an opinion, whatever, could lead to somebody else's path to success. So, I think we've nailed it today, Katie. We are gonna have I wrote this down. We're gonna have awareness, we're gonna have honesty, we're gonna have self-worth, and we're going to take those keys and bring them to change ourselves from the inside out. And tell us, everybody, before we go, how can they find you and hear more of your journey and more keys for change?
amazing. Well, thank you so much, Shelly. It was my pleasure to have this conversation with you. You're such a delight to be
Ah,
around. Your energy is palpable.
thank
And
you.
for anyone who's curious to learn more about my world, katiesoul.com is my website. And I am on Instagram is the area I play the most on social media. And I am Katie Soul there.
Okay,
And
great.
you can learn more about me and connect and say hi and share, how you got connected. I always love to learn how people found their way into my little nook of the internet.
I know. I know that is I like that too because people come from all over. Well, we will continue to connect outside of the podcast world and share our stories and successes with one another. And thank you so much. I appreciate it so much.
Amazing. Thank you, Shelly. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
This has been Keys to Change with Shelly Henderson. Remember, it's never too late to unlock your real estate potential. To discover more inspiring stories and invaluable resources, visit us at ShellyLHenderson.com. Your journey to a thriving real estate investment starts here.